My name is Felix. I'm a professional calisthenics athlete and full-time coach, and I've spent years obsessed with one question. How do you truly build elite calisthenic strength without breaking your body in order to get there? I've competed at the highest level of the sport. I'm an Oceania champion, a two-time New Zealand national champion, and ranked 29th in the world. And the skills I personally train and compete with are some of the hardest static holds in calisthenics: the Maltese, advanced variations of the planche push-up, handstand push-ups, and one-arm handstand. But honestly, that's not the part I care about most anymore. What I care about is, over my experience coaching full-time, I've taken everyday people of different ages, body types, people who were sure they were too tall, too heavy, or too late, and I helped them reach skills they'd written off as impossible, like the planche, the front lever, the handstand push-up, clean, controlled, and without the constant injuries that most people just accept are the price of the sport. Now, a while back, and this was before AI could write you a book in a single afternoon, I sat down and I wrote one myself, the Advanced Calisthenics Handbook, a full guide to static skills. It's not available to download anymore, but it was the first time I tried to put everything I learned into one place. And eventually, it all came together into one system, built from years of competing, coaching, getting injured, and digging through the research. And I call it the Waterline method. In the next half hour, I'm going to give you the whole thing. The one law it's built on, the 3 pillars that make it work, a real client example, and exactly how to apply it to your own training this week. And don't skip around. Each part builds on the one before it, and it only fully clicks once you've seen all of it. The Waterline method rests on one core law and 3 pillars. The law is the waterline, and I'll define it in a minute. The 3 pillars are the strike, how you train the body, the well, how you feed it, and the stillness, how you train your mind and your recovery. And here is the thing that makes this different from almost every other system you've come across. Most coaches stop at training. They hand you a program and send you on your way. But a program is maybe a third of the whole picture. If your nutrition isn't handled, if your recovery and your headspace aren't handled, the best program on earth won't save you. The Waterline method covers all 3, the body, the fuel, and the mind, as one complete system. So here's the plan for this video. First, I'll show you the mistake that keeps almost everyone stuck, then the core law, then the 3 pillars one at a time. Then I'll walk you through a real 5-week cycle from one of my clients so you can see it in the flesh, and we'll finish with exactly how to implement this for yourself. I am going to take apart the single belief that keeps most people stuck. It's no pain, no gain. The idea that the harder you grind yourself, the more you earn. Here's the reality. You decide you want a skill, so you attack the hardest version of it at full effort every session until you fail. Kick up to the handstand, fall, kick up, fall, grind a straddle planche until your shoulders are cooked. Then you're so wrecked you skip 5 days, and when you come back, you do it all again. 6 months later, and you've barely progressed. Your body does not reward you for how much a session hurts. It responds to a specific stimulus. And past a certain point, more effort buys you no more adaptation, only more damage and more fatigue. Calisthenics is a skill and strength sport. It's not bodybuilding. Chasing the burn and training the failure is the fastest way to stall and get hurt. And most people who don't understand that, they quit. Not because they're lazy, but because months of effort with nothing to show for it is genuinely demoralizing. They were never the problem. It was the approach that was the problem. The story I always come back to goes like this. A young man travels to a temple to learn Kung Fu. The master accepts him and gives him one task: strike the surface of a barrel of water every single day for 2 years, just striking water. And when his family asked what he gained from a decade of this commitment, he replied, "I learned nothing." Then from frustration, he strikes his palm down on the dinner table, and it cracks in 2. The change was invisible to him the whole way through, and it only totaled up at the end. But here's why. Your body's capacity to adapt has a ceiling, and that ceiling is reached at a surprisingly modest dose. Think of adaptation as a cup. Every session you pour water in. Once it's full. Pour harder and it just overflows to the sides. And in training, that overflow is your fatigue. That's how I think about it. And it isn't just an analogy. It's been tested in a lab as well. Your tendons are built from a material called collagen, and they can only build up so much of it from any single session. The surprising part is how little work it actually takes to hit that ceiling. And once you've done enough, you're done. If you train twice as long, grind all the way to failure, and pile on extra sets, your tendons build up the exact same amount, so that extra effort doesn't turn into strength. It just turns into damage. And past that point, it actively costs you. After you load a tendon, the net collagen balance is negative for the first 24 to 36 hours before it turns positive. So if you load maximally every single day, you live in that negative window and eventually break down. That's the difference between a tendon that strengthens and one that gets injured. It isn't bad luck, it's actually the dosage. Too little stimulus, nothing adapts. Too much, you overtrain, regress, and get hurt. In between is a section where adaptation is maximal and damage is minimal. The research literally calls it the Goldilocks zone. The top edge of that section is the waterline. You train just beneath it in every session and with patience. Consistency at the waterline becomes measurable. So if you train 26 days out of 30 at around 70%, it will outperform 10 days out of 30 at 100%. The point is, regularity actually beats intensity. Most people train to the edge of failure, but the disciplined path is to train to the waterline, the point where the body has received everything it can use and none of the damage. So now, let me show you how to actually run it across all three pillars. Pillar 1 is the strike. 6 principles all sitting under the waterline. So first, strike below the line. Most of your work sits at 60 to 80% of your max effort. It should actually feel like you have more in reserve. And save your true 90 to 100% efforts for occasional testing phases. Number 2, strike often. So exposing skill 4 to 6 days a week at moderate effort is going to beat 2 to 3 days a week going to failure. Near daily contact with the movement builds the skill and the strength both at once. Number 3, stop before the overflow. Form degrades under fatigue, and grinding fatigued reps forces the broken neural pattern. So when you notice form breaking in an unacceptable way, you need to end the set. That's how you be specific with your training. Number 4, strike the same. The exercises you pick to build a skill have to actually resemble that skill, or there will be very little carryover. Only then can you make it harder over time. Hold it longer, then for more reps, then to a tougher progression, then with less assistance, and finally with added load. But this whole climbing process has to carry out over months and not just a few training sessions. 5, rest the striking. These skills tax the nervous system, so rest has to be long. 5 to 7 minutes on primary work for full recovery between sets would be the standard. It's what keeps our training high quality. However, it's worth noting that this could significantly prolong a training session. Number 6, read your own strikes. Auto-regulate by rate of perceived exertion and account for your own weaknesses. In the planche, there are many distinct profiles, and the same program doesn't serve each of them equally. Assess yourself first, then train to mitigate your own weak links. If the whole pillar were to be reduced to one equation, it would be low intensity times high frequency times staying uninjured. That's the fastest and safest path that there is. Pillar 2 is the well. This is how you fuel the work you do. In the strike, you send your body the signal to build. But a signal is useless if there's nothing to build with. You can train at the waterline perfectly, and if you're underfed, you'll still go nowhere. And that's most people. Now, nutrition can feel overwhelming. So to simplify, picture a pyramid. Most of your results come from the bottom, and progressively less as we move towards the top. So, build from the ground up. At the base, it's just one simple question. Are you eating enough or too much? If you eat more than you burn, you'll build. Eat less and you'll lean down. Sounds simple, but it's exactly what most people skip. They obsess over the perfect supplement and the perfect meal timing while getting this simple thing completely wrong. The next layer up is what your food is actually made of. Protein is the building material, the bricks your body repairs and grows with, so you'll want enough of it every day. Carbs are your fuel. The harder you train, the more you need, and enough healthy fat to keep your hormones running. Get those three right, and you're already ahead of most people. And right at the top, the smallest piece is timing and supplements. When you eat and what you take on top. Worth tidying up eventually, but don't fixate on it. The more useful thing to understand is that none of these numbers are fixed. Your calories and your macro split shift from day to day, depending on what that day demands of you. A hard training day needs more fuel than a rest day, and your overall activity and lifestyle move these targets as well. So it's never one rigid, perfect meal plan. It's something you track and manipulate so it evolves with you. Pillar 3 is stillness, the mind and recovery after the training. These skills can take months. It can even feel like you're plateauing right before a breakthrough, and the progress can seem invisible day to day, even if in reality it's actually compounding. Your mind is also part of the training, so in your rest periods, run the skill through your head, and the movement will start to feel more intuitive. Another thing is, confidence matters much more than people realize, so the way you carry yourself shapes how you train and how you perform. Recovery is one of the training variables. Good sleep and low stress will raise motor unit recruitment, so take them seriously and treat it as part of the program because it actually is. It's not just a break from everything. Lastly, drop the ego so you can actually regress when you need to. And remember to film every set because you can't judge your own technique from a first-person point of view. Principles are easy to understand on the surface, but hard to see in an actual plan. So here's a real 5-week cycle I wrote for one of my clients. His goals were a clean handstand and an advanced tuck planche and bent arm handstand press. First thing to understand, I built this around his life, not the other way around. He's got a schedule, so the program has to fit into that, which means I don't run the Waterline method law for law here. The laws are a standard. My actual job is to apply them to the person in front of me. Almost every working set sits around RPE 8, a couple of reps left in the tank, with a standing instruction to cut range of motion the moment form fatigues. True maximum effort is saved for a single day right at the end of the training cycle. His planche and handstand push work is built from eccentrics and isometric holds that isolate the exact positions the skill demands, and the progressions increase in very deliberate steps. Now, not everything gets the same dosage. He trains 5 days a week, but the load isn't spread evenly. His strength skills, the planche and handstand push-up, are heavy on the body, so they're trained hard only twice a week each, with long rest. But the handstand hold is a balance skill. It's low damage, so the body can take far more of it. So he practices the handstand almost every day. Short, easy technical reps. Coordination skills can carry different volume and intensity trade-offs than strength skills. The low intensity lets you train them much more often, and that frequency is exactly what a balance skill needs to ride on. And the whole thing is built to protect him. Antagonist work after every push session, reversed wrist curls to mitigate the classic forearm discomfort from planche, and an RPE check-in after every session. So in order to start today, begin with the strike. Train at RPE 6 to 8, leave 2 to 3 reps in reserve, hit each skill 4 to 6 times a week, end sets when form breaks, and rest 3 to 7 minutes. And as for the well, set calories for your goal, hit around a gram of protein per pound, use carbs to fuel the work, and spread it across the day. Lastly is stillness. Sleep, manage stress, visualize during your rest periods, film every set, Progress over months with longer holds, more reps, harder leverages, less assistance, more load, and only advancing when you've mastered the step you're currently on. And of course, avoid the patterns that holds everyone back. Training to failure, treating soreness as proof of their work, skipping days then compensating with maximal sessions, and grinding with absolutely no structure. Before I wrap up the framework, I want to make clear that there is no secret method here. Calisthenics runs on science. You can't shortcut the laws of how strength and tissue adapt. It's built on what's actually true and wrapped in a philosophy that keeps you consistent and uninjured long enough for it to actually pay off. When I first started chasing these skills, I trained exactly the way I told you not to. Maximum effort, every session, ego was maxed out. I believed if I just wanted it badly enough and suffered enough, it would come. But what came instead was injuries and cycles of very little progress. Then was forced to take steps back because, well, something hurts, and overall losing a lot of progress. The turning point was doing the opposite of my instincts. I lowered the intensity and trained more often. I left capacity in reserve, and that's when I finally progressed. And here's the promise I made when I started coaching. I would not teach people the way I taught myself, because what works for one body isn't automatically right for the next. So I built a system flexible enough to meet people where they are. That's also why the system goes further than most. Anyone can hand you a harder workout, but very few will look after the body, the fuel, and the mind all at once. And fewer will tell you to do less when less is what you need. So if you've been training for months or years and you're still chasing these skills you see online, you are not broken. You're almost certainly just been training over the waterline. The fix isn't more effort. It's the right dose and in the right order. You can take everything in this video and start on your own, and you absolutely should. But here's the honest truth about why people still stall, even with the right principles. The principles aren't the hard part. The hard part is sequencing them for your body and your weak points, knowing the exact moment to push and to back off, and catching the form faults you can't see from your own perspective. So if you want me to build this whole thing around you, your skills, your schedule, daily check-ins, video analysis, and nutrition, all programmed for you, that's my one-on-one coaching. And the link for that is right below. And I'll be honest about who it's for. It's for people genuinely ready to train at the waterline. So patiently, consistently, and for the long game. If you're after a quick hack, I'm not your guy. But whatever you decide, I'd encourage you to be part of the movement anyway. Drop your questions in the comments. I always read them. And check out Cali Temple to train alongside people using the same systems. And follow me on Instagram, where I post most of my training and my clients' progress every day. I'm going to keep proving that elite calisthenics isn't reserved for the genetically gifted. It's built deliberately by anyone willing to train smart and stay consistent. So be that person, and I'll see you in the next one.